Ollie the Octopus was excited because he had been invited to go downtown and sit in on a dress rehearsal for an orchestra performance. And Ollie loves to go into the orchestra, and it felt all cool and exclusive to get to go to a dress rehearsal. So he, got all ready and went. It's just he decided to take a skateboard down because it was a nice day. If you're gonna go skateboard down and maybe take the bus back up, it was mostly downhill from where he lived to the orchestra hall. He'd been invited by his friend Jerry, who was the first chair flautist, which means he plays the flute. And so he texted Jerry that he was on his way, got on his skateboard, and then when he was getting close, he came around the back side of the building, and there was Jerry, and he was in tears. And as Ollie came further around the building, the whole orchestra was there. I said, Jerry, what's wrong? What's going on? Ollie, didn't you see? I said, no, what's going on? There's been a horrible accident and the concert's off. It was my first concert as first chair. It's not happening. There's no way. I said, why? What's happened? Is everyone all right? He said, yes, everyone's fine. No one was hurt, thank goodness. But the whole thing's ruined. There's no way to do it. I said, tell me what happened. Maybe I can help. Oh, Ollie, you're very helpful, but there's nothing you can do to help. Here, I'll show you. Come with me. And they walked around toward the front of the building, and then Ollie saw right away what he meant. Because the front of the building was smashed. A big tower from a church across the street had tipped over. I said, whoa, that's a lot of damage. This is going to take a while to sort out. I said, I know, I don't know when we'll be able to resume. I said, but were the instruments destroyed? I said, no, thank goodness. It hit the front of the house. Nothing structural. Because all the structure for the auditorium is another 100 feet back from where the tower hit, but the front is all destroyed. You can kind of get in, but you got to step around the rubble. It's no way to do it. You can't really do a concert like that. So the hall is closed. I said, well, what about, but there's this whole open courtyard here. Yeah? So what if you did it outside? I said, oh, yeah, we could almost do that, but that's the problem. It wasn't just our building that got crushed. Look. Oh, I looked further. And the parking lot that served the orchestra building had been demolished too. The main ramp was broken and half the building was knocked down. I said, oh man, that's a big deal. What about, but people can still get here on public transportation, right? You could just put out a thing on the radio saying, take the light rail. I said, no, they can't even do that. Look over at the light rail. When I looked over, he saw that the building had fallen. After it had fallen on the concert hall, and the parking garage, the back of the parking garage had collapsed and covered the track with bricks and debris and destroyed the station. I said, you see? The only way to get here is by bus, and I don't know if people are going to take the bus to support a concert. I'm going to refund everyone's tickets. I don't know if I'll ever get to be first chair flute now. I was so ready, Ollie. I was so ready. I've been preparing for this like my whole life. I said, there. You'll get another chance. I said, I don't know, Ollie. I don't know. I need to sit down. I said, all right. You sit down. But I've got an idea. And Ollie went and he made some phone calls. And he called in some favors. And he went and he talked to the director of the orchestra to check his idea with him. And the orchestra director said, you think you can pull that off? I said, I know I can pull that off. I know I can. The question is, can you guys pull it off done that way? I said, yeah, no, yeah, I mean, it'd be an unprecedented thing, but it would be actually pretty cool. And yeah, I think it would work. You have to drive very carefully. And the flautist came up, Jerry came up and said, what are you guys talking about? And the orchestra director said, Ollie's got an idea where we might be able to have our concert after all. It'd be pretty different. It'd be very different. But we would bring the show to the audience. I said, what do you mean? I don't understand. I said, you'll see. I need you all to gather your instruments and chairs and music stands and bring them all out here. Pack as light as you can. We're taking this show on the road. I'll be back in about 45 minutes. And the orchestra director said, Ollie, remember the show is tomorrow, not tonight. I said, oh, right, of course. I got so excited. Yes, that's even easier. That's better. Can you guys rehearse, like, outside tonight? And the director said, well, we can rehearse inside tonight. Because remember, we can get in there. There's no way for the audience to get in, but we can go into the backstage door. We can still do our rehearsal inside. I said, perfect. I'll tell the radio folks. Put it on all broadcasts. It'll be the crazy news story. Everyone will want to cover it. You're sure we can do it, though? And the director said, yeah. You know, the show must go on. Let's do it. Let's do this crazy thing. And the flautist said, I still don't know what anyone's talking about, but okay, so we're going to rehearse anyway? Oh, I guess you can still come watch. I said, you know, I've got some important legwork to do. So you just do your rehearsal, and I'll see you tomorrow. Well, they did the rehearsal, and people were a little bit shaky, a little bit weirded out, but it was coming together. They were ready. They were ready to do their show. And they were encouraged that they knew that if they were rehearsing, they probably would be performing, even though they didn't quite know how. The orchestra director told them to come an hour earlier than they normally would to the concert tomorrow. And get rested up. Because the way they're going to be doing it, it's going to be harder than usual. And he reminded them to pack light. Don't bring all your stuff. Don't bring your extra things. Bring what you need. But nothing else.
Why pack light?
We'll see in a minute. Now, the next afternoon, an hour before they would normally arrive, the orchestra all started getting there. And the director had them pick up their music stands and their instruments and their chairs and meet out on the sidewalk, the biggest part of the sidewalk where they could all get there. About half an hour later, a big truck pulled up. A big old semi-truck, except the semi-truck was open on one side. And Jerry started to laugh when he saw it was Ollie the octopus driving it. I said, Ollie, I didn't know you could drive. I said, I'm full of surprises. Have you figured out how we're doing this concert yet? And Jerry said, I have. Ollie, you're a crazy person. All right, let's do this thing. Ollie hopped out and said, all right, everybody. We're going to set up all your chairs and your music stands here in the semi-truck. I've got some helpers coming. We're going to attach all of your chairs and music stands to the floor of the truck so that you don't go rattling around too much. And then, as your director said, we're taking this show on the road. It's going to be the weirdest thing you've ever seen. But already, look behind you. The local paper and local TV is here. This one's going to be one for the history books. Now, Jerry just plays the flute, so he didn't have a whole lot to load. He said, but Ollie, there's one piece that's missing. What about the audience? Part of the problem was that the audience couldn't get here, but there's still no audience. How are we going to... We can't just drive around playing. I mean, no one would hear the whole piece. I said, yes. Here's the thing. Big parts of your audience come from a handful of places in the city. And what they can't get here, there are other places that they can get to. So we put out a big set of announcements on the radio today. And in the paper, we worked at the newspaper. And people are going to meet us at 3 different locations around the city. And you're going to play 2/3 of your normal concert at each of the locations. And Jerry said, that means we'll be playing twice as much, playing for twice as long as we usually do. I said, yeah, that's the downside. But the upside is people will never stop talking about when the orchestra came to them. And when the musicians heard that, they all thought that was pretty exciting. So they loaded up and they screwed things down and they did all they needed to do to feel secure. And the orchestra director brought folders for everybody so they could, keep their sheet music in place as they drove. Everyone was all loaded up, and Ollie hopped back into the truck and said, everyone ready to go? And he heard a big, yeah! And he blew the horn on the truck, and they pulled out. And behind them, by that time, there were 4 news trucks from the TV stations, 2 different cars of print journalists following them, and the music critic for the New York Times had gotten there just in time to see this crazy, crazy kind of concert. And they went around to the first location, which was up kind of by Hopkins, on the lawn in front of Hopkins. And they pulled up, and Ollie got as close as he could get. He'd gotten special permission to bring the truck up. And there was that big crowd on the lawn, and they were excited. They'd never seen something like this. And the director got set up, and he started to play, and they played a beautiful set of music. The audience lapped it up. Everyone loved it. And at the end of the performance, there was a huge round of applause. And then Ollie hopped back into the cab of the truck. Everyone folded up their music, and he gave 2 big honks, and off they went out, over into, somewhere in East Baltimore. I'm trying to think of, they went to Patterson Park. Went to Patterson Park and pulled up right in the middle of the park on the hillside there by the pagoda. And there again, a big crowd had gathered, bigger than the last one. As they were getting set up to play, Jerry went over to Ollie and said, Ollie, this might be, if you count all 3 of these performances together, our most attended concert ever. But what about the ticket holders? I said, well, I'll leave that to the business director of the orchestra to figure out how to honor the ticket holders. A lot of your ticket holders are out there in the audience, but maybe we'll need to get them something special another time. And they got up and they played another great concert, and it was exhausting to play for that long, and kind of weird to play while riding around in the back of a truck. Well, not riding around, but the energy of the crowd and the excitement of this crazy new thing they were doing gave them so much energy and passion. They played even better than the first set. And the audience, they cheered at the end of every song like it was a rock concert. And it was a great performance. And then they went to the 3rd location, went all the way downtown, where a very, very large crowd had gathered at the Inner Harbor. They pulled up, and the director said, Ollie, there's more people here, just here, than normally fits in the orchestra hall. This is amazing. And there's people waving flags and people wearing their hats that say, Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. There's a crowd full of people. I mean, there were orchestra fans that would have been there at the concert. There's also people that would never make it to an orchestra concert. It's a little bit different because a lot of people there didn't know all the polite rules of when to clap and when not to clap, but the energy of the crowd, they were just eating it up. They were loving it. Finally, at the end of the last concert, at the end of the last raucous, loud round of applause, the orchestra finally started to look pretty tired. And so they honked the horn one more time, and they headed back to the orchestra hall to pack things up. And they were kind of dreading putting everything back in, because it was a crazy fun thing that they had done, but they were tired. That was a much longer performance than they usually play. And the riding around in the truck from location to location was weird and tiring too. And quite to their surprise, when they got to the orchestra hall, what did they see? But 150 of their normal subscribers, people who have bought season tickets to the orchestra, were waiting there for them. And the director said, "Oh no, are they expecting another concert here?" Well, I said, "Not exactly, no. Although if you wanted to play them something special, I bet they'd love it. But no, they're here to help." So the orchestra director got with his first chairs, and the flute and the violin and the percussion and everyone had figured out something that they could play from their repertoire, a favorite, something that everybody already knew, that wasn't in the program. And they ended up doing a Danube waltz. And the orchestra loved playing it. It was a fun one that everybody knew by heart. They would play sometimes for kid concerts and stuff. And it wasn't overly long, so they weren't going to wear them out. And the crowd of subscribers that had gathered, well, they were already standing, and so they started to dance. This impromptu waltz in the middle of the sidewalk in front of the broken orchestra hall. It was a beautiful moment in time. And as they wrapped up, the crowd turned, and clapped, and then they started helping everybody off, and with all that help, the truck was unloaded, and the stuff all put away safely inside the orchestra hall and the lockers and everything, and in no time flat. Jerry and the orchestra director went to Ollie and said, "Ollie, how can we ever thank you? This was a great idea. I can't believe we pulled this off. But it was awesome." Ollie said, "Hey, it was my pleasure. This was a lot of fun. I don't usually get to have my crazy ideas see the light of day." And the director said, "Well, Ollie, I don't know what we're going to do, how long it's going to take to fix this building, but you've saved this performance. This is a big performance, especially for Jerry here. So I'm going to see to it that you get season tickets just about whenever you want them. As long as I'm director here, you get in for free." Oh, I said, "Oh, that's very sweet of you, but, well, I won't say no. I'll look forward to the next performance." And that was Ollie, in the case of the Mobile Orchestra.